These are the 61 items in Ultimate Chicken Horse. Having so many items allows for limitless replayability. But there's a problem. 25 of the 61 items are banned from competitive play. Earlier this year, the Universal Tournament rule set was added to the game. This is a rule set that I created and gave to the developers to make it easier for people to play in tournaments. But many people have issues with it. Random items are removed from the rule set with seemingly no rhyme or reason. Items like hay bales, flamethrowers, and wooden planks are banned, even though there's nothing wrong with them. I get people asking me about this all the time, and I understand the confusion, but everything here was calculated. So why are they banned? There are three main reasons that items get banned in UCH. Some items are fundamentally unviable in competitive play. Others had to be banned to prevent something called cycle stacking. And the rest were banned for a more complicated reason. So let's start with the items that just don't work. To understand why some items don't work competitively, you first need to understand how the game is played. If you already know how UCH works, feel free to skip ahead. In Ultimate Chicken Horse, you spawn into a level. At the start of each round, you get a random assortment of items from the party box, which you then use to create the map that you play on. After the building phase, both players attempt to make it through the level and reach the flag. If everybody makes it to the flag, nobody scores, but if you make it and your opponent doesn't, you get a point. Repeat this process of building and racing to the flag until either one player scores 3 points, or until 12 rounds have finished, at which point the player with the most points wins. Your goal is to make the map just hard enough to trip up your opponent without killing yourself in the process. With that out of the way, let's talk about the items. The unviable items fall into several categories, the first of which is something called trigger gating. If I have a one-way door placed like this, I can get through the setup by using a tech where I bait the door to open, move back to let it close, and jump off of the door as it comes out before it has the chance to open again. This is some of the most fun tech in the game, but there's a problem. Imagine I have more points than my opponent. If I make it to the door first, I can just stand on the sensor and hold it open. This tech requires the door to close, so the level becomes impossible. I already have a point advantage, so I could just stall the game until the rounds run out. The same idea applies to the recently added dance platform. As long as you get to it first, you can move the platform away and periodically dance to keep it there. Some might argue that being faster than your opponent to be the first player at the setup should be rewarded, but there's another mechanic in the game that causes this to break down. In UCH, the player hosting the game will always get a small head start on their opponents, which makes any race condition fundamentally unfair. This small head start is known as host priority, and it applies to more than just trigger gates. With high enough ping, a boxing glove placed beside the spawn allows the host to get to it before their opponent can even move, resulting in a guaranteed kill. For similar reasons, coins, magnet platforms, and crumbling blocks all needed to be banned as well. The next category of unviable items aren't about who gets there first, but instead who gets there last. Take this setup for example. If I touch the portal, I die, which makes this setup extremely difficult. But what happens when two players reach the setup at the same time? If I go first and die to the portal, my opponent can take the easy path through while the portal is down. All of a sudden, this setup becomes a waiting game, because neither player wants to be the first to attempt it. The same idea is true of beehives. Only one player can attract the bees, so the first player to go is always at a disadvantage, making this item competitively unviable. The remaining items just aren't that great for competitive play. Jetpacks allow you to easily skip over the entire level. Everything that you place is designed around the restrictions of the game's movement, so as soon as a jetpack gets placed, everything that you've built more or less stops mattering. Bombs and nukes don't work because being able to destroy so many items in a single turn allows you to stall the game out when you're ahead by keeping the map too easy for your opponent to score over you. Stopwatches don't really have issues that make them unviable, but the community generally agrees that they don't add much to competitive play, so they've been banned. This covers 13 of the 25 banned items. To understand the remaining 12 items, you first need to know about the problem that caused me to create this rule set in the first place. And this story, like many others, starts with Raito. Raito is one of the greatest players of all time, but something is holding him back. You see, Raito lives in Japan. Most competitive UCH players live either in Europe or North America, so the only way that Raito can compete is by staying up through the night. This might not be an issue if not for the fact that UCH is a slow game. Every set takes around 30 minutes, and if the game goes to tiebreaker, it can last even longer. With tournaments as large as 200 players, not only does Raito need to stay up late into the night, he needs to stay up well into the next day. With the community growing more and more, tournaments started to last so long that competing became nearly impossible for Raito. At a certain point, it got so bad that I had to step in and find a way to make tournaments run faster. The first step in this process is fixing an issue that slows down the game. For a long time, UCH has been plagued by something called cycle stacking. In competitive UCH, we play on custom maps because the built-in levels are designed around casual play and don't really work competitively. These custom maps are typically tighter, with more closed-off spaces. For the most part, this style of map works well, but things start to break down when you introduce cycles. Look at what happens when I add multiple cycles to this closed-off space. In order to get through, I need to wait for the cycles to line up perfectly, and the more cycles you add, the longer this takes. Each round has a time limit of 105 seconds, so too many cycles can just make the level impossible. So how do we fix it? I said before that every additional cycle increases the length of the cycle stack, but this isn't always the case. If I add an arrow to another arrow, the timing doesn't change because the arrows always fire at the same time. So in order to solve cycle stacking, we don't need to get rid of all cycles, we just need to limit the number of unique cycles in the game. The items with the most egregious cycle timings are flamethrowers, fan platforms, gears, paper airplane throwers, diagonal moving platforms, and the long moving platform. None of these items are particularly great for competitive play even outside of the cycles, so we don't lose much by removing them from the rule set. We may not lose much, but we gain a whole lot, because removing them keeps cycle stacking from slowing things down and the games run much quicker because of it. Removing the cycles definitely sped things up, but this alone isn't enough to keep tournaments from running too long. There are many things that we had to do to make it happen, and one of them was lowering the number of rounds in each game from 12 to 10. But this isn't something that you can do for free. Less rounds played means less time to create an advantage and score. The first few rounds are typically easy enough that both players make it to the flag and nobody scores, which means the real game is played in the final 9 or so rounds. With fewer rounds, this becomes 7. This might not sound like a big change, but trust me when I say that this makes all the difference in the world. Going from 12 rounds to 10 gives you less time to plan things out, which makes it harder to consistently win. It's also just less fun. But there's a way around this. If we increase the average quality of each party box, it becomes easier to create difficulty, which allows you to fit more gameplay into less time. We're already halfway there from removing the items with bad cycles, but there's a hidden mechanic in the game that holds us back. It may seem like items are selected at random, but this isn't entirely true. There are a few rules that the game follows which skew the probability of each block. This section is already pretty dense, so I'm going to focus on the one that matters the most. As you play each round, the game is keeping track of how many times you die. If players are dying too often, the game thinks that the map is too difficult. Every item in the game has a hidden difficulty rating, so when it thinks that the map is too hard, it skews the probability in favor of the items with the lowest rating. These items are the non-hazardous blocks: the planks, barrels, girders, staircases, and hay bales. The reason that this is such a big issue is the fact that UCH was designed around casual play. In competitive games, we make the maps way harder, so we die more. The end result is that the game gives you a ridiculous number of non-hazardous blocks. By lowering the number of unique blocks of this type, we can fix this almost entirely. The game will still give you planks, but it's significantly more likely that it gives you something useful too. The least impactful non-hazardous blocks are the 6x1 plank, the 5x1 plank, and the hay bale. So those are the items that got removed. All of this may sound convoluted, but in the end, it worked. Because of this rule set, along with a few key changes in the community, we managed to cut the length of tournaments in half, and Raito has been able to compete. I hope that this hasn't been too dense. Truthfully, I'm trying to find the limit on just how deep I can dive into the details of this game without losing the appeal to a broader audience. Because with nearly a decade in UCH, there are countless things that I could share about this wonderful game. It's all just a matter of who wants to hear it. And if you're one of those people, I appreciate it. Speaking of people I appreciate, shoutouts to all the people who support me on my Patreon. Thanks to your help, I'm able to pursue my dream. It means the world to me.